name is Oliver van den Einde. I'm born and raised Belgium, in the capital of Europe, actually, from Brussels. But today, since almost 5 years, resident in the beautiful African continent, residing in Kenya, Mombasa. And today I'm addressing you from Brussels, where it all started, the journey of Close the Gap, the social enterprise I founded in the early 2000s. And the real reason why I started it as a social enterprise was because I really felt, as a young graduate at that time in business economics, that many challenges in the world, whether it's societal or environmental, could be tackled literally by using the force of business as a good, opposed of always looking at challenges and at potential solutions from a government or a taxpayer-funded solution. So my real motivation was to see how you can use the strength of the business model, that affect how private sector development initiatives can actually, on the one hand, set up self-sufficient ecosystems that are self-supportive, working with customers and trying to be profitable, but on the other hand, really addressing societal needs, where there is a big gap, I would say, in the market in terms of haves and have-nots. And that has been the start of Close the Gap's venture in 2003. You kind of tend to start in looking in your own environment, to your personal experiences as a growing up child and teenager, in my case. And so what really triggered me setting up this digital inclusion initiative, if we can Close the Gap as such, is also the fact that when I grew up, I was the oldest of a family with 6 kids, so 5 siblings. And I was born in 1979, so basically when I was a teenager, that was in the 90s, and digitalization was far away from being an accessible attribute, I would say, to teenagers in that time. In the best of case, you would have business leaders that would be using a computer in that time. And so my dad actually owned a small, medium-sized business, running it together with my mom. And for some reason, he came in touch with a gentleman that introduced technology to my dad's business. And by the time I was 10 years old, we had like 25 computers in the house, because we were living in the same house where my dad had his practice downstairs. And I became kind of the computer engineer, being a teenager, supporting the networking and the maintenance of that infrastructure. And from one thing came the other. So when my dad was upgrading his devices, I kind of received his discarded devices, which were kind of still in good shape, and I could refurbish them, upcycle them, as we would say today, so that my younger brothers and sisters could actually start using digital tools in an era where that was extremely not common, that you would have access to digital tools in those times. And so in fast forward, let's say 15 years later, when I was at university studying business economics and better understanding the way how business plans work, and already having some notions of sustainability, corporate social responsibility, I kind of took that childhood experience to a more macroeconomic level and tried to develop a system where, opposed of doing that for a small business of my dad, I tried to do that for the countries around Belgium, being the Benelux countries, as we call them, Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg, which is, let's say, a region with more or less 30 million people living there. So quite a bit smaller than South Africa, but still a decent amount of people and businesses to set up such an ecosystem. And that's actually yeah, the long story to your answer, it's like kind of looking at your own situation where you saw some opportunities and challenges at that time, and then trying to bring that alive in this model of upcycling yeah, large volumes of high-end computer equipment from discarded company programs would really makes much sense to put them at use for yeah, for young aspiring entrepreneurs in sub-Saharan Africa, for schools, for rural hospitals, and also for clean tech companies that needed access to technology. And yeah, that has really been the motivation. And I think the digital side, the digital part of the program, together with the societal one, has really been the DNA of the setup of Close the Gap. We have now offices in Kenya, in South Africa, in DRC, and in Uganda. So we employ more or less in the ecosystem 100 people, and we work on a yearly base with more or less 200,000 computers that we kind of upcycle through our channels. More and more we see that the dependency of the inflow of equipment is less European focused, and that's a good thing because we see the circular economy is also much more becoming a standard and an aspirational best practice in many African countries. And so, like in Kenya, for instance, we onboard every day new corporates and government clients that also want to work with Close the Gap. Kenya, in that case, for us, taking care of their end of first life devices, making sure they get according to the best practices of the Data Protection Acts in all of our countries today, that all those data on those devices are properly and full stop erased, so that there is no issue with so-called GDPR and privacy matters of consumer data, and that obviously the devices are made available with the necessary quality assurance and warranty and software for a new user. So that's our model. If you ask me where do we see us in the near future, I hope in the next 5 to 10 years, the 4 geographies in Africa where we are present now would really see Close the Gap becoming market leader in each of those geographies. So in South Africa, in Kenya, in DRC, and in Uganda, to start those 4, that we would really be a significant provider of so-called upcycling circular ICT services to all the large users of computer devices, so that a large portion of those valuable electronics can actually find their way back to societal impact projects where they can really make a big difference for the recipients of those computers. I tend to say, after being 20 years now a social entrepreneur, is that I think any type of entrepreneur, regardless if you consider yourself mainstream or social, I hope in the future we will only have one type of entrepreneurs, and that all of them will, per definition, be impact entrepreneurs or social entrepreneurs, because you see the world is less fragmented today as, let's say, 20 years ago, where you had for-profits and non-profits. You'd see today that because of the concept of impact and social entrepreneurs, that non-profits become more commercial and social, and for-profits become more, let's say, societal and more impact driven. And at the end of the day, I'm a true believer that business is a force for good, and that we should kind of see entrepreneurship as the way of building societies equitable, sustainable, socially correct, and that is probably a much more sustainable way of organizing our societies, opposed of being dependent from handouts from charitable organizations and from government taxpayer money, because we all know governments around the world are suffering a lot with their public finances, and the private sector is much more today, I think, in the critical part of society to overcome lots of challenges we face in the world in all matters of society. So an entrepreneur is really someone who is navigating between two extremes: the extreme of fear and the other extreme of ambition. And I think if you are constantly in the extreme of fear, then obviously you will never be a successful entrepreneur. Then you might rather become, let's say, an accountant or a tax advisor, let's say, or an auditor, even better, where you are probably with that attitude very successful, and that's also very needy. And if you are constantly on the ambition side, then you probably will hit the wall sooner or later, because then you're losing the feet on the ground and your sense of reality. And so an entrepreneur, I think a successful entrepreneur is someone who balances between fear and ambition, is someone who constantly looks at the outside world, at the customer base, at all the stakeholders, from the regulators, the governments, your customers, your employees, the environment in which you work, and that is able to constantly shift, I would say, just like you are on a highway with your car. You know that if traffic gets dense, you adapt your speed, and so on and so forth. I think an entrepreneur constantly should navigate between fear and ambition to basically continue to be sustainable, successful, future-oriented, and fit for purpose. So I've definitely also in those 20 years have had quite a bit of challenges. There is certain moments that you feel your organization is hitting difficult moments, that sometimes you feel your cost base is not sustainable because you built certain new structures, hired new people when things were going very well, and when you were hoping that would be let's say a long-term perspective of those successes, but then suddenly you have increased your organizational overheads, your workforce, and then a couple of months or years later you have crises such as COVID or such as economical financial crises, where you directly see a hit back on your business model. And those moments can be very, very tough. Mostly, I think, because at the end of the day, as the chief executive officer of any company, you feel very lonely at the top. It's sometimes difficult to share your sorrows, your fears to your team members, because as a leader, obviously, you need to inspire, you need to make sure everyone feels motivated. And then if the leader, him or herself, is depressed or is looking sad, or even being worried, it might trigger lots of negative effects within the organization, which would even reinforce the fear or the issues you are facing in that moment. So to end on that question, I would say sometimes you need to be an unhappy clown as an entrepreneur. The outside needs to be I would say smiling and energizing, but sometimes the inside is very much at risk and unhappy. And I think it's part of any leadership position. You need to navigate with those emotions, and keep positive and optimistic, and have yourself surrounded by people that inspire you. And that's, I think, one of the things I'm very, very valuable for, that I had lots of people inspiring me, and still today, and helping me to try not to be an unhappy clown, but a happy. And the other extreme, literally on the equator in beautiful Mombasa. So it's a very tropical climate there. My morning routine is really waking up very early. We have the mosques around us that literally wake you up between 4 and 5 with the morning prayers. At first, I was a bit disrupted in my sleep with those new noises, but now I must say they kind of give me inspiration and spiritual energy in the morning. And so together with our newborn, who's barely one year old, my morning routine is waking up with his natural biological clock around 5:45 a.m. Then we have breakfast together. The family energy of having breakfast with your kids, I think, is for me a very important one. And after that, I try to do a 1 hour swim, not in open waters yet. We have access to a communal swimming pool around our apartment, and that really, and it's an outside pool, obviously in Mombasa, and it helps me to be away from my phone for an hour and literally be in the water, so you're not able to be connected, and that really is my digital detox moment of the morning and of the day. And after that, I start my day with doing my emails, having my first meetings, and then I try to always have at least 1 or 2 social, enjoyable, professional meetings every day, whether it's a coffee I drink with someone or invite someone for a lunch. I think it's, for me, very important not to be all day behind my desk in an office. I like to engage with people in other environments and inviting people for valuable moments that matters. And by the way, being out of the office doesn't mean you're disconnected from the office and from the work. The digital tools allow us to work from anywhere these days, and obviously you can only do that if your office has good structure and good people doing the real work. So I try to be a little bit an outside insider every day, to keep myself constantly challenged and triggered with the outside world. I think as an entrepreneur, it's very important that you don't forget that your inside office environment is often not the real world. The real world is outside, and you need to permanently have your sensors in the real world to be able to adapt your business and your business model on a permanent basis, so to say. So I think that's a little bit the answer that comes up to my mind to your question, when the daily routine is to be addressed. Sounds cliche, but really trust your judgment, trust your gut feeling, follow your dreams. Don't think that it's impossible, and surround yourself with mentors, coaches, people that can help you. We should really look at ourselves as a human being, as someone who is per definition not perfect, as someone who is standalone, only a shadow of what he or she can be. So take advantage of connecting yourself to people that are for you, people that you look up to, the people that inspire you, people that you feel that are inspired by yourself as a person, as an entrepreneur, as an aspiring entrepreneur, as a youth, I would say a growing up human being. And so my real takeaway for the network of the cohort here is to be a bit selfish and think about yourself by connecting to those people that can help you to make your journey more successful, more efficient, and more timely, achieving your goals. It's really not an issue by being a bit selfish. You can only be good to others if you're good to yourself. That's really one of the very important takeaways I would like to give to the young people.